The old camera. In the suffocating silence of his grandfather's attic, beneath a moth-eaten velvet shroud, Silas found a relic that should have remained buried. It was a heavy, antique bellows camera, its leather casing cracked like parched skin. As Silas wiped the thick dust from the glass lens, a strange, cold hum vibrated through his fingertips, rattling his very bones. He didn't know how the ancient mechanism worked, but the moment he touched the shutter, he felt a desperate, starving urge to see the world through its singular glass eye. Silas brought the relic back to the sanctuary of his bedroom, but the air there felt suddenly heavy, as if the camera had dragged the attic shadows along with it. He peered through the small, rectangular viewfinder. The world inside the lens was different, sharper, yet drained of all warmth and color. Heart racing, he aimed the lens at his own reflection in the vanity mirror and pressed the button. A harsh, mechanical click sliced through the silence, followed by the acrid, biting smell of burning ozone. The camera hissed, spitting an instant photo from a narrow slot in its base. Silas watched, breathless, as the chemical swirled and darkened into an image. But the figure that emerged wasn't just him. Standing in the darkness of the doorway behind his reflection was a tall, distorted shape. It was a woman with unnaturally long, segmented limbs, her face a pale, featureless blur of white. When Silas spun around to face the real doorway, the hall was empty. Only the lingering chill remained. Terrified, Silas ran into the night to find his friend Soren. They met under the flickering, jaundiced streetlights of the local park. Silas thrust the photo toward him, the pale figure of the woman, Mara, now looking clearer, her spindly fingers reaching toward the edge of the frame. Soren let out a sharp, nervous laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "It's just a double exposure, Silas. The film is ancient. Let's take another one right now to prove it's just a glitch." Soren stepped back against the gnarled, obsidian-black trunk of an ancient oak tree. He struck a dramatic, mocking pose, crossing his arms to hide the tremor in his own hands. Silas raised the camera, his fingers trembling so violently the bellows rattled. He didn't want to click the button, but the camera seemed to exert a physical pull on his finger, demanding to be fed. Click, the flash was blinding, momentarily bleaching the park into a world of stark white and bottomless black. The photo developed with a sickening speed this time. As the details sharpened, Soren's mock bravado vanished. In the image, Mara was no longer lurking in a distant doorway. She was standing directly behind Soren, her long gray fingers resting heavily on his shoulders. Soren looked down at his own shoulders in the real world, his face turning a sickly, translucent shade of white. "Silas, I feel cold," he whispered, his breath hitching in his throat. "I can't feel my arms." Panic took hold, and Silas fled back to his house, leaving Soren standing frozen under the oak tree. He locked his bedroom door and shoved the camera into the deepest corner of his closet, piling heavy textbooks on top of it as if to bury it alive. He sat on his bed, clutching a baseball bat to his chest, listening to the suffocating silence of the house. Then, from inside the closet, he heard the sound, a soft mechanical click, then another click, click. Silas crept toward the closet on hands and knees. On the floor, sliding out from under the door like a deck of cards, were 3 new photos. He picked them up with shaking hands. The first showed the corner of his ceiling. The second showed the back of his own head as he sat on the bed just moments ago. The third photo was taken from right beside him, a profile shot of his face in extreme close-up. In every shot, Mara was there, her featureless face leaning over his shoulder. "Get out of my house!" Silas screamed, grabbing a heavy hammer from his desk. He lunged at the closet, determined to smash the camera into 1,000 pieces. He swung the hammer with all his might, but as the metal head was inches from the glass lens, the camera emitted a flash so bright it felt like a physical blow to his chest. The world didn't just turn white, It collapsed into a flat, glossy stillness that swallowed his scream. The room returned to a heavy silence. The camera sat upright on the floor, its glass lens cool and dark once more. Mara stood over it, her long, spindly fingers picking it up with practiced ease. She looked down at the final photo that had drifted onto the carpet. It showed Silas, his face frozen in a jagged scream of terror, trapped forever behind a layer of glossy plastic. Mara tucked the photo into the camera's leather casing and faded back into the shadows.